All right, again, welcome everybody to our informational webinar on the Open for Anti-Racism program for 2021-2022. And this is Una Daly from CCCOER. Let's see. I'm going to go into introductions in just a moment. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the agenda, but once again, James and I want to welcome all of you here today. This is amazing. We're at 165 folks joining us this afternoon. This is being recorded. Yes, it is being recorded. So, and this will be posted later today. We know a number of colleagues are not able to make this time frame. And so we apologize for the difficult time, but it was the time that we could get together to talk with you about this. So welcome. We want to give you a little bit of an overview of, or it's really a snapshot of last year. So we ran this program a little bit differently. Last year it was a pilot program. And then we want to talk about this upcoming year, talk about the application process, additional resources for you. And once again, we want to say thank you all for your interest in making your classrooms anti-racist.
And we also want to acknowledge the very generous support of our sponsors, the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, for making all of this possible.
Thank you, James. And they're right there on our slide, and they are very active in this work and have been very supportive and encouraging throughout the last couple of years that we've been working on the anti-racist program. So thank you, James. So once again, I am Una Daly, the Community College Consortium for OER Director. We are a national organization, but we were founded right here in Northern California and work with community colleges on adopting OER in order to improve affordability, equity, and diversity. And this program, I have the pleasure of co-leading with my colleague, Dean James Glapa-Grossklag from College of the Canyons, who I will let speak as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm just so excited to see so many people here. It's really, again, inspiring, heartwarming to know that there are so many people in our California community colleges who want to engage in this work, whether it be from the open educational resources perspective or the anti-racist perspective. It's just really exciting to see so many people here. So thanks, Una.
Wonderful. And you see another couple of lovely folks that are part of our team. Liz, who runs a lot of the logistics behind this and unfortunately couldn't make today. But as you hear about the program more, you'll definitely work with Liz. And also our two developers and facilitators of the Canvas course, the Open for Anti-Racism Canvas course. Last year and this year, we're thrilled as well, will be working with us again. And that is Kim Gruey from, she's actually an instructional designer at Northern Virginia Community College. She actually resides here in California. And also Joyce Shoemate, who is the Director of Online Education at College of the Canyons. And all critical members of the team. Really quickly, before we get into the meat of it, I wanted to just once again mention that CCCOER is a national organization supporting OER. And we're founded in 2007, right here in California. And we're all about supporting faculty choice and development. We have monthly webinars, which I'll tell you a little bit about at the end, that are free and open to all interested educators. And we're always supporting regional OER leadership, which of course this is a great example of, and improving student equity and successes are really at the foundation of the work we do. All right, so why the Open for Anti-Racism program? And you may ask, why are we doing this? Well, I think many of us observed the events of last spring and summer, where it really became clear our understanding of the systemic racism in both our society and educational systems needed to be improved. And so we anticipated and very and very much observed that faculty wanted to make their classrooms anti-racist, but they needed more information, they needed tools, and they needed a safe place to learn how to do this and implement it in their classrooms. And that was really kind of the original hypothesis, but bringing in OER and open pedagogy as tools that faculty can use in their classrooms to make their courses anti-racist. And we'll talk to you a little bit more about how that's done. Any questions about that? So that's, okay, so that is what launched our 2020, sorry, our 2020-2021 program last fall. Here is a quote from one of the faculty who participated last year. "I was excited to see the word anti-racism. Most often you see the word equity, and it has come to be meaningless to me." And we heard that from a number of faculty. So for those of you who might be new to OER and open pedagogy, that's fine. We are not requiring that as a requirement to submit an application or to be selected. But this is really a, the 30-second elevator pitch on what this is. If you're really truly interested in this, I would, there's a lot of wonderful resources out there, and I'm very happy to work with you, and certainly go to our website, cccoer.org, to get more information. But open educational resources are freely available learning materials that can be copied, edited, and shared to better serve all learners. These could be textbooks, they could be courses, they could be videos, they could be a syllabus. So any resource that's openly licensed and can be freely reused. And of course, there's some wonderful examples in the California Community College system where these materials have been developed. Our academic senate has a program, the OERI program, which encourages that development. And I'm sure many of you are aware of that and hopefully are participating. Now, in addition to the instructional materials, there's a whole pedagogy side to open. And it's about really empowering students to be part of the learning experience and to drive that learning experience along with the faculty member. And so often the term renewable assignment is used. So looking for and developing assignments that go beyond the multiple choice test or the essay that is assigned over and over again. To choose assignments where students have some choices around what they develop, and perhaps they can share that with a larger audience. And it's something that they might use in a subsequent course or even in a career artifact for their resume. So it's learner-centered, it's co-created between the faculty and student, it's connected to some real life purpose beyond just writing an essay on the same old subject all over again. And it's built on the foundation of OER, which is what we call the 5 R's, which is, all right, James, what are the 5 R's of open?
Remix, reuse, retain, redistribute, and it'll be a test for everybody in the chat. Yeah. Remix, reuse, redistribute, retain, and there's another R out there.
There is another one, rats. We should put that on there. But it is essentially allowing students and really everyone, including the educators and the general public, to reuse these materials freely and be able to republish them, citing their sources, of course, but to edit those and republish. So that is the toolbox. All right, overview of the program. So it's about exploring how to use those tools, OER and open pedagogy, to make instructional materials and teaching practices anti-racist. And so those who are enrolled in the program learn about anti-racist pedagogy, how to use and develop OER, and how to develop open pedagogy practices through a facilitated online Canvas course. And there is a copy of that course that has been actually put into Canvas Commons. And we maybe I'll share a link to a web page that has all of that information on it later. And part of this course that the faculty take after they've learned about the anti-racist pedagogy, OER, and open pedagogy is they develop an action plan that they are going to execute in collaboration with their students in the spring semester. And so that is exactly what happened last year. And we have some wonderful showcases on the CCCOER website of the action plans that were implemented last year. This is a community of the folks who are accepted into the cohort. There's peer group connections, there's monthly webinars, there's coaching, and there's support around finding and developing OER. And there's also a research component where faculty fill out both pre and post surveys. There are interviews, optional interviews for the faculty to participate in with the research group, which is the RP group. And there's also student surveys, so surveys for your students to take so that they can share their perspective. And this is just an example of last year. We had 17 faculty who participated with us last year, and you can see the disciplines were quite widespread. And also, when we were looking at accepting folks in, we tried to be as regionally diverse. So we had faculty from all of our 7 California community college regions, because we think that's really important in terms of impact and equity, essentially.
I don't see Art on here.
Was that a question? You don't see Art. No, we couldn't choose every discipline. And I don't actually recall if we had one in art. It's not that we wouldn't love to, but it wasn't selected last year. So last spring, we had a open for anti-racism spring webinars, which covered a wide variety of topics related to anti-racism. We had not only scholars coming in to speak with us, we had practicing faculty, and we had community and higher education groups that are focused on anti-racism. And all of these are archived on the website if you would like to go back and listen to them. We will also have some this spring in 2022, and we will invite the community to attend these. So even if you are not in the program directly, these webinars will be available for you to attend. And they were very well accepted last year. And they featured, as I say, some really prominent anti-racist scholars and community folks. Another quote from our faculty is, OFAR gave me the starting point to the confidence I needed to be frank and vulnerable with my students when it comes to race and privilege and how they themselves engage and perhaps perpetuate and benefit from racism. So these conversations with students can be difficult, but when the research was done and faculty filled out the surveys, they found that having those frank conversations about race and ethnicity, how it affects their discipline, were some of the most productive elements of the open pedagogy that they introduced. All right, I think I am turning this over to James.
Great, thank you, Una. And I want to just pause for a second and see if anybody wants to unmute with questions. And thank you, Aisha, for mentioning in the chat, asking in the chat about how we were taking questions. We failed to verbalize that earlier, so thank you for that. If anybody has a question right now, please go ahead and unmute, or the entire time, please post your questions in the chat. And thank you, Trudy, our friend Trudy, for identifying the 5th R for us. And thank you, Aloha, for helping to clarify something about last year's cohort as well. Yana asks in the chat, how many teams will we be able to select this year? Great question. So first of all, thank you to the generosity of the Hewlett Foundation. We will be able to support 40-ish participants this year, depending on the number of participants who are in a team. We think, with our, very rough math, that would be 7-ish teams, 8-ish teams from around the state. And we'll talk a little bit more in a few slides about how we envision diversity in selecting teams.
I have a question.
Do the
Yes,
teams
Christine.
have to be, oh, I'm sorry. Do the teams need to be within the same discipline?
Great question. The answer is no, certainly not. If we receive an application from a team of everybody in the same discipline, terrific. If it's interdisciplinary across your college, that's perfectly fine as well.
What about non-credit programs?
You serve our students as much as people who teach in credit programs. So we would certainly hope that a college team would include credit and non-credit faculty. We hope that teams would include adjunct colleagues as well as full-time colleagues.
Yeah.
This is Janan from Santa Monica College. Sorry, I have
right
two
ahead.
quick questions. Is it preferred to have teams of 2 or 6 or in the middle? What is the preferred size? And my second question is it better to diversify from different departments or within the same department? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Janan. Real great question. And Una, correct me if I'm misstating anything. We honestly haven't a preference in terms of the size of a team. We know that there are pretty large institutions in our system and there are pretty small institutions in our system. So if we were to say, golly, we are going to prioritize a larger team, that could somehow give preference to a larger college, and we really don't want to only serve large colleges in our system. So there's no perfect answer there, Janan. And then I forgot the rest of your question about the team composition.
From different departments versus same department.
Yeah, whatever suits your college, whether it's everybody from the same department or a diverse group from different departments, both are fine. You'll be working individually. Let me just clarify why we're asking for team applications. We would like to have an impact on the institution rather than an individual faculty member. So by encouraging team applications, we think that you, participant, you will have an organic support system at your institution, and you all will be able to share the information, the knowledge, the tools with your colleagues and throughout your institution, more so than if you were just solo. But throughout the program, you will be participating as an individual. You'll be taking the course as an individual. You'll be developing an action plan for changing something in your course as an individual. You'll be working to implement a change in your teaching in your own course as an individual. Does that help a little bit?
Helps a lot. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I'm gonna move on here, and hopefully we can catch other questions in the chat as they come in, or Una is catching them.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry, several of us have our hands raised.
Oh, so sorry, Aisha, go ahead.
I know
Sorry,
it's like
just didn't
Zoom
see that.
etiquette. We're trying to follow the order of operations.
Oh yeah, please.
So I don't know. Yeah. So this is Aisha. Hi, everybody. My question kind of goes along with what you just talked about, but in terms of deliverables, what is expected from folks who are truly diverse? And I mean that in the generic sense of we're from different departments, we teach different courses. What is the expectation there in terms of getting, I guess, something from us to show that we've done this work in terms of anti-racist pedagogy?
Great question. So fast forwarding to the end of the program, let's say June of 2022, what does a deliverable look like? The big deliverable would be some sort of artifact from your teaching. Now, for some people, that's going to mean, it's going to be all over the place. For some people, that will mean I'm using an open textbook, and every time the open textbook illustrates human beings, there are pictures of white people. I worked with my students to re-edit the textbook so that the images of people in the textbook reflect the lived experience of my students, right? That would be one kind of sort of OER-y kind of project. Another project, thinking back to last year, one of our participants last year created a Black Lives Matter focused unit for her students to integrate into her teaching. Another participant last year asked her students to write short profiles of scientists from her discipline who were not white males, which is typically what you found in her discipline, right? So a lot of it was co-creation with students, and it was some sort of documentable artifact, something that we will ask you to openly license, and we will ideally upload to OER Commons so that it's shareable and reusable by others. Does that help, Aisha?
I think, Aisha,
does,
might
thanks.
be asking, I was wondering if actually, Aisha, you were asking about the diversity of your team, but I might have been
No, I mean, it's nice to define that, but I think based on what you've said so far, do you mean diversity in the sense of that it just provides folks to kind of ask who they think would be a great collaborator and not necessarily diverse in a specific way, ethnically or by department or discipline? So that's actually, that's fine. I was concerned about the deliverables, which he answered. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Aisha. Great, and we'll go into more detail on that in a second. And I've completely lost track of the queue. I can see on my screen Dr. Eileen Tejada, sorry.
Tejada, yes.
Tejada, thank you.
My question is about, so I'm hearing that these are interdisciplinary teams. I'm running our college senate, our academic senate, developed an instructional design institute, and we have been running culturally responsive pedagogy for professional learning. So they're strands. They're like 3-week sessions, and I was wondering, this seems to be more directed at students. We're looking at developing a bank of materials. And so in the hopes of connecting with helping, working with you all to build up that bank of materials for transdisciplinary faculty across the board. So is that okay? Or were you like, this is specifically for teachers and students, not necessarily that we would share it with instructors that come through and then as a resource, as a part of our workshops, workshop strands. We've moved to a professional learning paradigm from a professional development paradigm. So our participants, we're totally shifting our how we do faculty professional development at our college, and the Instructional Design Institute is part of how we're achieving that. So I was just kind of wondering, is that like off? Is that a line or not a line with what you're doing here?
It's fantastically interesting, and I think there's great value in that approach. And with this program, the OFAR program, it is particularly focused on individual faculty members implementing a change in their teaching in a class.
And that's the goal of the Instructional Design Institute, right? So that we're giving them the theories, we're giving them practice, and then we'd like to develop a bank of resources so that they can take it directly to their classes.
Could I suggest that, could you pop us an email afterwards, and we can maybe discuss this further?
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. And then also, folks, just in the interest of time, if you could keep your hands up, maybe we could go through the slides and that will answer some of the questions, and then we can come back to the hands, if that's okay.
Yeah, and feel free to enter your questions in the chat, and I will try to.
Great, thank you.
Answer.
Okay, so off to the races here. So the beginning of the experience for those who are accepted is to complete a 6-week facilitated online course this fall, beginning November 1st, running through the middle of December. And in that facilitated online course, you'll complete a number of modules. The biggie is what is anti-racism, what's anti-racist pedagogy, and then also the basics of OER, open educational resources, the basics of open pedagogy, and then tying this all together. How can anti-racism be supported through OER and open pedagogy? That's our hypothesis, but the participants in the course need to wrap their heads around that. And then you will craft an action plan to specifically change something in your class. And as I mentioned previously, it could be that you're tackling an open textbook, or it could be that you're developing a lesson plan together with your students. There are really a lot of they're pretty wide open for you. Next slide, please. And
Sorry.
so training requirements or support. So training outputs. We'll go back one slide. Training outputs. So going back to the question that we partly addressed earlier, individually as a team member, you're going to create an action plan for what you're going to do in your class, somehow using OER, somehow using open pedagogy, but the real goal is to make your teaching anti-racist. And maybe it's a module, maybe it's your textbook, maybe it's your entire course, maybe it's redesigning your syllabus. So there's a wide range there. Here are some examples that what the deliverables might be. Maybe it's a revised history course that now includes a module on Juneteenth because the commercial textbooks don't do that. Or it's a revised biology text, as I mentioned before, in which your students are replacing images in the textbook so that they can better see themselves reflected in the textbook. Next slide, please. The requirements and supports. So if you're selected, we will ask you to attend monthly webinars. We always hold our webinars on Fridays at noon. So monthly webinars. You'll also, so the monthly webinars will feature guest speakers who predominantly work in the anti-racist space. So that we're deepening our knowledge, collectively deepening our knowledge, because goodness knows none of us, at least in our team, none of us is an expert on anti-racism. Most of us come from the open education perspective. So we come to the anti-racist work with a lot of humility. So we continue to learn, we continue to engage with experts around the country. And then you will also receive dedicated support on the OER pieces. So during the month of January, we'll have a series of workshops on searching for OER, licensing content, remixing content, and so on. And then also a big piece of this is research or documenting the impact. So individually, we will ask you periodically to complete some surveys. We'll ask you to participate in interviews with our researchers, a 1-hour interview. We'll ask you to upload some artifact from your course, from what you've changed. We'll ask for evidence that you've reported out at a department meeting or your division or school meeting, somehow that you're disseminating this. And that could be, an email that has the agenda from your department meeting, something like that. We'll ask for a final reflection. And then we'll ask for some institutional data, and we'll talk, there's another slide specifically about the data. And then also related to benefits, if it would benefit your institution, we are available to visit. If we're able to visit, we are available to visit your campus, deliver a workshop, or hop on Zoom, come into a department meeting, or chat perhaps with your dean about what kind of institutional impact you could have. So that's also available as well, if that would be helpful for you to expand your impact on the institution. Next slide, please. I know, Una, you're trying to do the chat as well, so thank you very much for driving the slides and the chat. So institutional research. If you are accepted, we will ask you to provide evidence that you've spoken to your institutional research office, that your institutional research office agrees to provide some outcomes data. Our external researcher is the RP group, the Research and Planning Group, which is really the premier research group for California community colleges. They will interact with your institutional research department. So the professional researchers are interacting with professional researchers. They'll be requesting a data file, an anonymized data file of students who enrolled in classes taught by you, that would include both previous semesters, the semester in which you're implementing the change, so spring of 2022, and then the following semester, fall of 22, because what we'd really like to do in terms of gold standard, or I don't know, gold standard, but in terms of really documenting the impact, is to look longitudinally at what changes may have occurred in your class since you started implementing what you're learning and what you're planning to implement through this program. And next slide, please. So here's a little bit more specific on the data request. So going back, ideally going back to summer 2018 through the fall of 22, as I just mentioned. So the RP group, the professional researchers, they'll be asking your research department for enrollment and grade information in all the sections that you taught, and the demographic information, the student demographic information, so that we can disaggregate the data to see how outcomes may have changed for different groups. And just to be a good campus citizen, it would be smart to just chat with your institutional research folks now. Let them know that you're applying and that you may be coming back to them asking for a formal email or formal letter saying, yes, we agree to provide this data. Next slide.
So James, before you go on,
Yes.
there were just some good questions about the research per se. I believe it was, I'm sorry, it was Antonio. I'm sorry, my vision is not so great these days. Was asking about the IRB and would their IRB need to be involved? And so I responded, and for those who aren't able to keep up with the chat, I responded that our research partner on this grant is the RP group. They work with college IRBs, have been doing that for many years, as I'm sure many of you are aware of them. And they will be doing that work with the selected cohorts college. But we still need you to reach out and start that conversation, and then the RP group will work directly with your IR department.
Yeah, and thank you, Una. And let's really emphasize that point. So we have this external partner, the RP group. They know your institutional researchers. They know them personally. They work together all the time. So they're interacting with their colleagues about their specialty. But I think just out of politeness, it would be nice for you to check in with your researchers to know that this may occur.
We did have a comment from another faculty member here saying that comparing pre-COVID to COVID years could be interesting. I'm paraphrasing slightly there. And I don't disagree with that. But the RP group is looking to look at a number of years prior. So it will actually touch on pre-COVID as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Next slide, is that?
Oh, and real quickly, Cecilia asked in the chat, I see, what if you didn't start teaching? That's fine, Cecilia. Don't worry about that. We will take the data that you have, right?
Oh, great.
The same for Andrew, yeah. So we'd be very happy to receive the data that covers the time that you've been teaching, if that's the case.
Okay, great.
And Aisha asked a question. I'm not absolutely sure I understood this. So Aisha, you may need to speak up. She said, assuming this is an opt-out if we aren't using in a course, are there alternative data sets we can provide? So our assumption is that you will be implementing this anti-racist pedagogy through OER and open pedagogy in a course you're teaching in the spring. So just want to make sure that that was clear. And Aisha, I apologize if I misunderstood your question.
No, I think you got it. I think I was thinking something different. So that actually clears up a lot.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Great. Okay, so who will participate? Who are we seeking? We are seeking to support California Community College faculty, certainly full-time and adjunct colleagues. Because of our limited resources, we're able to support only 40 colleagues, but that's a lot more than we were able to support last year, which was 17. If you complete the facilitated online, well, when you complete the facilitated online class this fall, we'll cut you a check for $500. And then during the spring, you'll go through the rest of the program, receiving the ongoing support, implementing the change in your class, participating in the research, the survey, potentially the interview. We won't have everybody sit for a 1-hour interview, but some of you will be asked to sit for a 1-hour interview. And the other obligations that I mentioned, evidence of reporting out to a department meeting, submitting a final reflection, submitting an artifact from your class, et cetera, et cetera. Then at the very end, we'll cut you a check for another $3,000. So that's a total of $3,500. So we hope that helps to keep you focused and helps to recognize your dedication to making a positive change for your students. That's really what we want to do. You know, this work is not easy. We all know that all of us who feel called to be educators, we way too often give ourselves for free, and keep educating ourselves for free. But we're so pleased that we can provide some modest compensation for your work on this. Next slide, please, Una. One more quote from a faculty participant last year. Learning from my peers in OFAR was great. There were other faculty that teach such an array of different disciplines. To see how they use anti-racism in their curriculum really inspired me to start looking at how I would look at it from mine. And we heard that again and again from participants last year. And maybe some of you have had the opportunity to participate in professional development with people across the state. It's really rewarding. Perhaps you've taken one of the @ONE classes, or you've done things through the statewide academic senate. It's really refreshing and again, inspiring to hear what colleagues are doing at other institutions. Next question, please.
Or slide.
So what's the application process? Or Una, do you want to jump in?
No, I just wonder if we have, well, there was a question about facilitators that we'll come back to at the end.
Okay, great. So the application process, you will have found the link in the call for participation. The application, we've designed the application so that it can be filled out by one person. But if you're that one person, before you go fill out the application, please talk to the other folks who will be part of your team, so you have this information. We ask about the diversity of your team, and the diversity can be ethnicity, race, gender. You describe other diverse aspects of your team, level of teaching experience. And that could be people who are just starting teaching, and it could be people who have taught for many, many years. There's no right answer there. We just want to get a picture, a holistic picture of your team. Familiarity with OER, not required, but again, we'd like to get a holistic picture. Familiarity with culturally responsive teaching or anti-racist teaching practices. A general sense, again, a holistic sense of the changes that your team, again, you're working individually, but in the application, a holistic sense of what kinds of changes you're envisioning to make, recognizing that things are going to change, right? You're going into this because you want to learn, not because you know everything. So maybe you go into this with the idea, and we had this with our participants last year, you know, folks went into it thinking, I'm feeling very ambitious. I'm going to create a brand new textbook. I'm going to write the best textbook in the world ever with my students and openly license it. And then, you know, life happens. You learn more, you get busy, and maybe one chapter came out of it. That's okay, but we'd like to understand what your ambitions are. We'd like to understand what kind of impact you will have on your students, how many students, what type of students you're going to be supporting. How do you think that your institution will benefit? and any other institutional support that you can think of. You know, is it the case that when you told your dean about this, the dean said, "Oh, great, we're gonna do this other thing. We're gonna make somebody else available to support your team," or gee whiz, you know, you're working in an institution that is really hostile to this kind of work, and you're kind of on your own. Let us understand that as well. That would be helpful for us to understand as well. So let's pause here. Any questions about the application process? And we're pretty close to the end of the slides. I can see on my screen, I see Andrew with his hand up again or still. So Andrew, you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, my question was regarding the OER aspects of it. Could that be simply like, say I'm trying to design a new syllabus. I teach history, and I teach largely to incarcerated students. And I would like to design like a California history class that is anti-racist, and I'm also trying and decolonized, and
Awesome.
and trying to present that to the student body that has limited doesn't have internet access, is an incarcerated population. How does that relate to OER aspects in terms of what is expected as a product from the project?
Well, first of all, thank you for doing that work. I think it sounds terrific. One of our participants last year, and somebody who's going to be a coach with us this year, also teaches California history. So that would be awesome for you to connect with him. In that case, because of the setting for your students, maybe creating original OER work wouldn't be possible, wouldn't be appropriate. Perhaps you're more engaging in open pedagogy, co-curating some new materials together with them. You're not remixing something that already exists, but perhaps they're working together to create a model syllabus for teaching in that setting. So that's fantastic.
And we had a question about courses, because we have a number of folks who teach, they don't teach a typical semester-long course, either a quarter course or a half semester course. We had some folks who did half semester courses last year and did some really amazing work. So that is something we would definitely consider.
Yeah.
And with regards to quarter, and James and I haven't discussed this, we primarily because we didn't have any participants from the quarter schools last year, but I think we would consider a winter or spring course, but we would expect the faculty member to participate throughout into June of 2022 in the overall cohort and all those activities, even though the teaching quarter might be slightly earlier than for the semester schools. James, did you have any thoughts about that?
No, I agree. We want to err on the side of including as many people as possible, but there are some just practical considerations particularly with the research. When do we launch a survey? Maybe your class hasn't begun yet when we're launching the survey, so we have to make some adjustments there with our researchers. So there are just some logistics there that we could work out, but it would be incumbent upon the participant to really make us aware of that, so we could make those necessary adjustments.
That's actually really a good point. And I forgot, because of the student survey piece of it, it might be preferable to do a spring one. Otherwise, we would have to have two district. Usually we try to have the student survey released end of April timeframe, so that students have participated in the course. And of course, for those quarter schools, your winter students would be gone by end of April. So yeah, so that is a consideration, but.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to exclude you though.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the next slide, and then we can take some questions again.
All righty.
Thank you. So we talk about a diverse group of participants. Diversity means a lot of different things. These are the kinds of things that we will be these are the kinds of things that we'll have information about with your group. So the race and ethnicity, gender, discipline, certainly, and then also region and institution type. Given the numbers in the state of community colleges and community college faculty, we could easily fill up the entire program with math and English faculty from Los Angeles, right? But we don't want to do that, right? That's not representative of our state. So we definitely will be thinking about large schools, big schools, rural schools, urban schools, Central Valley, and so on. So just be aware of that, that diversity means a lot of things in this big state. Student demographics, your student body, and then potential impact. Again, diversity means a lot of different things. It can mean a lot of different things. So we're going to try to look at the applications through that lens as well. And the applications will be reviewed by a larger group, a larger team. We have our co-leads, that's Una and myself. We have our course developers, Kim Gruey and Joyce Shumate, and then we have a fabulous set of coaches, which we didn't really speak about. I know one of our fantastic coaches from last year is with us today, Aloha Sargent from Cabrillo College, the amazing Aloha. Many of our coaches come from the open education and online teaching space. We also have some coaches who bring with them more expertise in anti-racism. And then this year, we're super excited. Some of our participants from last year have agreed to be coaches this year as well. So that's a long way of saying that the applications will be reviewed by many different eyes. And as I mentioned in the chat, at least last year for 17 slots, we had 330 applications. So given the attendance here today, we expect that we will have a lot of applications, which is great, but just know that we probably won't be able to accept everybody, unfortunately. And then the final slide, and we'll go back to questions. Final slide, Una.
Sorry.
Thank you. So here's the calendar of event for the fall, and then we will also, for participants, we'll have a calendar for the spring. You see that we're on row 2 right now, the call for participation informational webinar. The call for participation closes on the 27th. We'll notify you by Monday, the 18th of October. We will have a launch webinar for participants on Friday, October 22nd. That's 12 noon. And then the next week, the Canvas course begins, and then we'll have a couple of webinars during the fall and so on. So that's the fall schedule. And now let's go back to questions.
So we did have some questions about colleges within the same district participating. Now, I'm not sure that we went into this in a lot of detail, so I just want to revisit this. In working with our funder and other feedback that we received from last year, there was a focus, there was a recommendation and then a focus for this year on increasing the impact at institutions of having someone participate in this. And of course, last year, we wanted to distribute it as widely as possible. And so we had 17 faculty from 16 colleges. So this year, we decided to go deeper with the teams idea. So we're willing to entertain some sister colleges working together. However, it would be one person, say, from a sister college who would be joining a larger team, and we would require 2 letters of support in that case. We would require a letter of support from the main college and also from the department chair or dean of the participant from the sister college.
Right, thank you, yeah, Una, thank you. So to verbal questions, what I can see on my screen, I can see Kate Williamson. Kate, you have your hand up if you want to unmute. Hello, and thanks for being here, Kate.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, we've had a lot of interest about this from our college, and we're a very big college, so we're just trying to narrow it down to 6 at this point. So from that perspective, do the letters of support need to come from each of the team members, because we're going to have different deans?
No,
Okay.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, and we should point out that we do have an FAQ going on, and this is addressing the FAQ. Maybe Una could pop the live URL into the chat. We want to strike a balance. We don't want to make this a horrible, complicated application process. You got to get 20 letters, but we do want to see some evidence that your institutional leadership knows what's going on and is going to support you. So one letter from a dean or a chair would be awesome, but you don't need 6 letters from 6 different people.
Okay. And
But
then,
I would recommend that you choose the strongest
yes.
level of support. Yes.
Yes. And then piggybacking on that, so with that one letter, I saw in the template that it listed like attending webinars for the dean that's lending support. And I had a question from my dean about that because they didn't really know what that entailed.
Yeah, it's learning, right? So during the spring, we have, as we mentioned, we have a series of monthly webinars during the spring, always Fridays at noon, in which we invite experts in anti-racism, typically anti-racism, maybe equity more broadly defined, to share their work with us. So it's an opportunity for your dean to learn a little bit of what you're doing.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. It just, we want to make sure they know what they're getting into when they sign up.
And then also at the very end of the program, probably end of May, beginning of June, there will be a series of webinars in which the participants are sharing out what they did. You know, they're wonderful projects, and that's when we really want to have somebody from your institution be there with you and to understand, right, that holy cow, we've got a group of people who have done something. We need to find a way to make them more visible in the institution.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kate. I see Angelica has had her hand up for a bit.
Yeah, Dr. Yanez here. I just had a question kind of similar about the letters. My team and I did submit the application, but I think we got a little too excited because we realized we didn't have the letter yet. So do we need to resubmit the application, or is it okay to send you the letter from the chair via email? Because we did recognize that we could not save the app and then go back. So we were scared to lose
Una,
our answers.
I don't know. Our technical expert Liz is not here, the one who's managing the applications.
We probably can send it back to you.
Okay.
And we probably will ask you to resubmit with the letter just to simplify things. But if you didn't submit a letter, it comes in as a partial. Somebody's tuned in twice here, but so we will send back all the partial ones and ask you to resubmit. But so go ahead and contact us if you're concerned and don't hear back.
Okay, thank you.
And then in the chat, and it seems like somebody might have 2 speakers going, so that's causing a bit of an echo. In the chat, Aloha asked a great question. If you've got an interdisciplinary team, what about a letter from your vice president of instruction? Absolutely, positively. Or you've got a dean or director of equity. Absolutely fine too. You know, our intent with the letter is that we want your good work to become visible in the institution, right? We don't want you to go off on your own and do this great work and then you go back and nobody cares, right? And you know, unfortunately, I think many of us have experienced that. You know, we do something great and then nobody at the home institution knows about it or cares about it, right? We want to make sure that you're visible. So sure, a letter from your VPI or a letter from your director of equity, that would be great as well.
Even better, because we know there's going to be more impact there.
Yeah.
And I know folks asked for the slides, so there's a link to the slides.
Great. Let's see, Vida, you've had your hand up for a bit.
Thank you, and forgive me for not having my screen on, but I live in the wild and I can't do that many things at one time on the computer. So is it possible to go back to the slide about the application process? Because I have a couple of questions from that.
Yeah, we can do that. Let me bring it back up.
Now you've got everybody wondering about living in the wild, Vida.
Yeah, you're gonna.
I live in Joshua Tree, and we don't have real internet. We have pretend internet. So trying to do video and audio at the same time can sometimes create glitches.
Let's see. So back to the application process. Can you see my screen?
I can. So I'm a little confused about this. I have 2 additional faculty members, and I just saw that there's someone else from our college who is participating in this webinar. Before beginning, gather the following information. So on the application itself, am I putting all of this information, or is each member who's interested filling out their own application?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Vita. So if you go to the call for proposal, you'll get a link to a survey to fill out. And so only one person can fill out that survey, or from only one computer. And so that's why we suggest that you designate a team leader, or you could all do this together, either, in a Zoom room and have one person typing, or, if you have the luxury of actually being on site together, you could fill it out in a room. But since it's an electronic survey, it can only come from one computer. So I hope that helps. So that's why we're saying gather this information before you get started so that you can complete it in one session.
That does help. Thank you. And I think a Zoom meeting is wonderful. I have just a couple of other questions, if I may. Is the dean invited to attend the webinars or required to attend the webinars?
Well, on our template letter, the signatory is obligating themselves to attend the webinars. Now, if you're completing everything and fully participating in the program, and we get to the spring and your dean flakes, I think we're not going to kick you out. But we really would like, again, the goal is for your work to be visible in the institution. So we really want somebody from your institution to attend some of the activities.
Okay, and we may be able to find someone from one of our guiding principles, pillars or whatever, to actually write the letter and participate. And then the last question that I have, I believe, is if, and a few people have asked this, if we're not chosen, is it still possible, not necessarily to participate, because I know that adds work for those of you who are guiding this, but can we at least, even in the fall, sort of see what's going on so that we can be learning as we prepare for our own spring semester to develop a more anti-racist pedagogy?
And that's a great question. Absolutely. So as we completed this last year, our course facilitators were able to move the course from last year into Canvas Commons, and it's available in two formats there. It's available in a self-paced format and also in a facilitated format in Canvas Commons. So in fact, you could individually go into Canvas Commons and take the self-paced course, or if someone at your institution would want to take that facilitated course and perhaps make a copy of it at your institution so that you could focus it directly. Those materials are available for you, and because they're openly licensed, you can add additional resources. So these were from last year. And we finished up in early June. And of course, you know that this area of anti-racism and open pedagogy is constantly changing. So you could then adapt it also you can adapt it for what's new materials that have come out, but also for your institution and what is most important to your institution. And if you're looking for those resources, you can go to Canvas Commons if you're real comfortable with that and search for Open for Anti-Racism. I also shared a link earlier on the cccoer.org website. There is a page there called OFAR. It's the acronym Open for Anti-Racism. And if you go there and you go under the Learning Community button, it'll take you to that Canvas Commons course.
Thank you very much for the information and for holding the webinar today.
Oh, thank you, Vita. Let's see who else has a hand up. Let's see, Cheryl. I see Cheryl with her hand up. You've been patient.
Yeah, my question is that I don't see any indication that anybody else from my institution at Cuesta College has participated, or even, in fact, when the letter was sent out to us, I was so excited and I wrote right back, and I thought there was going to be somebody at our institution that was going to be getting that. And she said, well, thanks, let me know if anybody else signs up. Well, I don't have, I've taught online totally for about 4 or 5 years, and I don't have real close connections with my fellow adjuncts, or although the chair of my department emailed back and said, this is great, let me know how it goes. So my question is there any place for me in this program if no one else at my college is going to participate? I would
Sure.
be willing to do it on my own, but
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Cheryl. Last year, we did focus on individual participants, and this year, we're focusing on groups of participants. So I would encourage you to reach out again to folks at your institution, perhaps your academic senate president. I know the announcement was included in the most recent academic senate newsletter, thanks to our colleagues at the academic senate. And perhaps there's somebody on your campus who's responsible for equity initiatives who would be in touch with folks who would be logical to be interested in this, or your equity committee.
Turns out they're leaving in October, going to Pasadena Community College. So
yeah. Well,
whoever
but they might know,
leaving.
Yeah, maybe they know who would be interested on campus right now.
Okay, but there's no possibility for me to participate on my own.
Not this year, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
That is because I'm like ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay. But I could at least use the Canvas Commons course and take that, I guess.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And we will be sharing these webinars, so you can come in the spring and attend these webinars as well with the anti-racist experts. So we want to make those open to everyone who's interested, because as you know, today we had almost 200 people online, and our limit is 40. So much as we would like to accept everybody, there will be a limit.
Not gonna happen. So I need like 2 or 3 to even like be able to be considered for participation, or
a minimum of 2.
I'm really surprised because it's a big thing at our college. I don't know why there isn't a response to it.
I bet you'll find somebody.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Janan, you've had your hand up a bit.
Yes, thank you. So amongst one of the things that I'd like to work on, like I have an idea about a lot of issues that I'd like to work on in computer science courses. But one of the issues that I'd like to work on, and I think this also applies to many other disciplines, is that there's certain terminology that's very racist. And
yep.
In order to change that terminology, you have to, I don't know, reach, for example, in cybersecurity, there's the term hacker. Good hackers are termed as white hat hackers, and the not so good hackers are termed black hat hackers. And so to change the terminology, I would like to start the conversation, but I just don't know where to start. Is this something that this grant will help us with, like to know how to reach out to authority and stuff like that?
That's fantastic. Fantastic idea. I could easily see that your project would be creating a model syllabus or creating a sample module for your classes, but then you share it widely within your profession.
Okay, thank you.
I see real quick, June asks in the chat about full-time versus adjunct. Yeah, if your entire team is comprised of adjuncts, more power to you. Let's see, Anya, you had your hand up next, I think.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm following up actually on Cheryl's question because I have a similar question and I posted it in the chat. The question is about forming a team between the colleges. So if Cheryl is in one college and I'm in another college, could we possibly potentially do a team together?
Well, I think probably not, Anya. If it's two individuals from two different colleges, that really doesn't meet the spirit of what the way we've designed the program and the input that we've gotten from our funder to try to have an institutional impact. Una provided one example earlier in which that, that would be acceptable. And let's say you have 4 or 5 people from one college, and then there's a sister college and a related college in the same district, and there's one person from that other college. We could see that working. Let's say that Cheryl has, I think Cuesta is a single college district, but let's say that there was another college in the Cuesta district, and Cheryl wanted to join the team from the other college. We could see that working, because still you've got a largish group of people from one college, so you're having that institutional impact. But yeah, 2 individuals from 2 different colleges, it wouldn't be having that institutional impact that we've really designed this around. We're sorry.
Okay, so clarifying question. By the way, I did reach out to people in my college. I'm still waiting for the response, but I just sent the email blast. But I am from a one college district. It's El Camino College. I believe it's a one college district.
Yes.
So so let's say theoretically, if I get like 1 people responding or 2 people responding to my blast, and we form a team of 2 or 3 people, and maybe Cheryl could join that team, would that work, or is it really specific to one college?
Well, it would have to be, if you're going to have colleagues from 2 different colleges, it would have to be in the same district. So again, you're having some impact within that organization, within that structure.
Oh, I see. So it's specific to the district. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, great questions, and they make perfect sense from the perspective of wanting to participate. And then also, I hope you understand that from our perspective of wanting to have a larger impact on the participants, we really want to have more people than just single solo people.
Yes, I understand, and
thank
hopefully
you.
someone will respond. Okay.
Thank you. And Michelle, you're next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question is, if several people on the team were working on the same thing, like a course, collaboratively, and then some of the other people on the team were working on something else, is that acceptable, or is it supposed to be like one project that everyone contributes to, or how do you see the deliverable? What do you prefer for the deliverable?
That's a great question, Michelle. I think we have not thought that through. So to clarify, let's say you and somebody else, you're teaching the same department, you teach the same course, and you're working on, the same module, but you're doing it together. I would ask, I'll shut up in a second, let Una take this, but I think we'd like you to clarify that in your application. That would be really helpful for us to understand in the application. Help us to understand that, Una?
Yeah, the only, and I may have misunderstood this, so I apologize if I did, but I think the only requirement is that all of you faculty on the team are teaching in spring semester. So whether you decide to, if you're teaching the same thing or related, in a related discipline, and you're each taking a module, perhaps, I think that would be acceptable. But we expect each of you to be teaching a course, because that's part of the impact that we're trying to measure.
Okay, but if you were, like, if it was multidisciplinary, would each person have to have a deliverable that's specific to their discipline, or would we contribute to one project and everyone just contributes something to that?
Well, we want to see something happening in each of your classrooms around anti-racism. So I'm with your example is a little hypothetical, so I don't know exactly how that, but the anti-racism should occur in everyone's classroom. It might look different. Obviously, it'll look different in different courses.
Right. My example is we're actually three of us are teaching the same class in the school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we're actually in the process of designing a course that is anti-racist. So would that be a deliverable for all three of us, the same course?
I think that could be very interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously your outcomes might look a little different. Not only like your pre and post survey, some of you may come in with more background. Some of your assignments might be different, right? Even though you're teaching the same course.
Right, and then that would need to be published. So each of the person's course that they've designed kind of been tweaked to their own, with different things that they like would be published.
That's correct.
Okay.
But it wouldn't necessarily have to be a finished course, Michelle. As I said before, a lot of folks came in last year with really great ambitions, and they, in the end, they did one module or one chapter, and that's fine.
Yeah, okay. And then if there was someone from another department, would they just have to have something, a deliverable that relates to their course?
Yes.
Okay.
And our expectations are a little higher this year simply because there's more time for the program. Last year, the intensive online training occurred in January, and then people went right into teaching in February. So this year, as we mentioned earlier, the course will be in November and December. So there'll be a longer period of time in terms of the coaching time and the time for you to do your planning before the actual semester starts. So we think that we hope that was the feedback we got from our participants last year, is that we had to jump right into our teaching. And if we'd had January or the December break to work on this, we could have done more. So we hope we listened to that feedback, and we hope that is true.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, and then we have Chris with his hand up.
Just getting unmuted. I have several people from my college who want to work with me in a group. We're all from different disciplines. However, I know that this is actually one of our college goals this year is to work on being a better Hispanic serving institution. It's something that is high on the priority list for our institution. So I have no doubt that we'll get support there from our VPI, our president, and all of our deans are looking for this specifically, and those who we've all been sort of messaging back and forth. So I'm sure that we'll be able to get any letters we need. But I am wondering, when it comes to the deliverables and including things in the classrooms, I just want to make sure that as we go and we search for things, if we're working and we're all from different disciplines, how cohesive as we're working together, how much in concert do the deliverables that we end up with have to be, or can we work together and then end up with a series of different things that might be applicable to a wide variety of disciplines rather than simply having, okay.
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah. And I think the latter scenario you described will probably be more common, that individuals are working on something individual in their own classes.
Okay, I think we'll do better having people with a wider variety of perspectives and a wider variety of experience, because we'll each be able to, see things differently and provide that different viewpoint and better critique each other, as well as better, provide that different viewpoint and be able to provide information that we each don't have, and we'll collaboratively be able to work better for it.
Sure, absolutely. Boy, you know, this is the challenge. We've got such a huge, diverse state. It's fascinating to see all the different perspectives on how people approach things. But yeah, Chris, absolutely. I think you're on target there.
All right, thank you so much.
Great. And Trudy has her hand up.
Hi, James. Thank you very much. This question had been asked in the chat a couple of times and it might have been addressed, so forgive me if I'm repeating a question. We had somebody ask what the estimated weekly time commitment from faculty will be, and I wondered if you guys had any data on that based from the last cohort. And I understand that this is kind of difficult to pinpoint, so I'm just looking for a rough estimate so that faculty are aware of kind of the amount of time they'll have to put in overall.
Yes, and we did have numbers last year.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, James?
Yeah,
I don't remember what it was, but
we had, well, so last year it was designed at in the course, the initial learning experience, the facilitated online course last year was a 4-week course designed really to model the @1 courses, which publicly state a 10-hour-a-week commitment. I don't believe that people committed 10 hours, that everybody committed 10 hours to it last year. This year it's a 6-week learning experience rather than 4 weeks. So if I had to put a number on it, I'm going to put a number 5 hours per week on it. Una?
well, I think I would say 10 just to be on the safe side. And that's because there is a lot of peer group interaction and community building.
Yeah.
And on a weekly basis. So you'll be working with small peer groups. So I think you should think 10 and it might be a little bit less.
Awesome. Thank you both so much.
Great. And Antonio, I think your hand was up next. Antonio and his dog, or stuffed dog.
That would be Huey the Panther.
The Panther, okay.
Our mascot, not a dog. Thank you.
Sorry.
My question, Una did kind of partially addressed it. So I'm asking, what if a team application of 5 faculty, for example, has 4 strong members and 1 weak member? So this strong weak is in terms of the way you're looking at the application criteria. So what I'm wondering is, would you just say, well, therefore this is a weak application, or would you reach out to us to determine how that 5th weak member fits into the team and say, well, do you want to restructure your team, and give us a sense of how that works? Is there going to be some discourse, or will it be simply, acceptance rejection of team applications?
Wow. Well, yeah, we're asking for team applications and we will accept teams as a whole. And if when you get into the actual application, you'll see that a lot of the questions are holistic. Sort of what's the general, what's the overall diversity of your team? What's the general sense of your background knowledge with open educational resources, et cetera? So yeah, it will be a holistic application and a holistic acceptance or not. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And all members of the team are to be teaching a course during the spring. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. And that goes back to the documenting the impact. We want to, with the surveys and the interviews and everything, we want to make sure that we're able to document what's actually happening in a classroom now.
Thank you.
Let's see, I think Stacy was next. And just a heads up, folks, we do have a hard stop at 1:30.
Hi, thank you. So my question is, what happens, we have a team of 3 members, and I believe they're all adjuncts. So we may or may not be working in the spring. We go through the OFAR seminar, and one of the team members doesn't have a class in the spring. What happens? Do we still have a team? Can we not continue forward?
Well, no, certainly the team would continue. I
Okay.
think the team would certainly continue. We don't want to penalize everyone for the gross inequities in the U.S. higher education system. You know, that's just horrible. I think we'd have a conversation with that individual. You know, we'd want to have a conversation, see what we could work out.
Okay, great. That's just what I wanted to make sure about.
Okay, Gina. Gina's got her hand up.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for that. Actually, I'm responding to somebody else's question, Mr. Lopez, I think. He was saying that they have 5 strong members and 1 weak member, but I've been looking at the application and I just don't understand. So, wow, I'm way behind the 8 ball here. I just don't understand what makes you strong versus weak. I mean, what makes a strong person on this? That would be, I think, instructive for us to know. Is it familiarity with OER or so, any help you can give us on that?
Yeah, well, from our perspective, again, we're looking holistically at this. And if I think back to our applications last year, again, we got 330 applications last year. If we had wanted to, just based on the quality of the writing in the applications, we could have accepted only white female English professors from Los Angeles, because they can write. And the numbers in our state are such that you're always going to have more English and math faculty than anybody else. And, and Los Angeles is always bigger. But we didn't want that. So we looked at all kinds of other diversity aspects, Gina. So, large institution, small institution, it would be really unfortunate if we had no college from the Central Valley or no college from Northern California, right? Or the Inland Empire. That's just silly in a state like ours. So we'll be looking at all kinds of balancing with the final selection. So it's really, I think, almost impossible for us to say what makes a weak or a strong application or candidate. They were all strong last year. It was painful to say no last year. I don't know, Una, anything to add to that?
No, I just completely agree with you. We want to look at it holistically, and we realize that some faculty write better than others, but we want to be as representative as possible.
And let's be blunt. Why, CCC OER is a private nonprofit. College of the Canyons is one college. The Hewlett Foundation is a private philanthropy. Why the heck are we doing this work? Why isn't every single college doing this work? Why isn't the state doing this work? Why is this rationed? Everybody should have the opportunity to do this. This is kind of ridiculous, but we want to do the work, and we're doing everything we can to help to support the creativity of as many people as possible.
Okay, thank you.
There's my soapbox.
Looks like we've got Shelley Buchanan.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see everybody today. Quick question. Can our college put forth more than one team? Right now, our college seems to have at least 12 faculty members, maybe more, that are interested. So how does that work?
Yes, you can, absolutely. And I think there will be other institutions in that situation. So congratulate yourself, first of all, on having so many faculty who are committed to making their teaching anti-racist. But given the numbers, it's highly unlikely that we will be able to accept 2 teams from the same college. It's just, yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. It's awesome that we have that much interest. I think that's a really pretty fantastic. So.
Yeah. And one thing I would just add is one of the requirements of, if you're selected, is that you will share what you learned in some kind of a professional development experience with others on your campus. So if you had a team that was accepted, they could then share with a wider audience, including perhaps the team that was not accepted.
Okay, any other hands? Let's see, Aloha, yes. Yeah, Aloha makes a great point. You know, let's channel the open educational resource aspect of this. The core course is posted in Canvas Commons. Perhaps after you complete this round as a participant, you adapt the course yourself and you go back to your campus and implement this on your campus in the way that suits your campus. Absolutely right, Aloha.
Thanks, Aloha. We're thrilled to have Aloha back with us this year as a coach again.
Okay, we're coming up on 1:30 and I see no more raised hands. Thank you so much for everyone for being here.
Yes, thank you for being here and for your interest in making our colleges and our classrooms anti-racist.
Okay, thank you so much, and we'll stop the recording, Una.
Yes, we will. Sorry. Stop the recording. Boy, I have not done the recording in so long, I've forgotten. I bet somebody out there can tell me. Let's see, can I click there? Sorry, I do see it now.